Hey guys, welcome back to Critical African Thinkers. As you know, this is a place where we examine everything under the microscope of logic to ascertain what is most factual and logically consistent. So today we are going to be talking about Operation Epstein Fury, and we're going to be analyzing how Iran is currently punishing Israel with missiles, and not just Israel, so many other countries in the Middle East that are housing US bases. It's been about 3 days since the US launched its war of aggression against Iran, coupled with Israel. And they probably thought that this was going to be a walk in the park, especially after killing the Iranian leader there, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was an 86-year-old man who basically just gave himself up for martyrdom. He did not leave his apartment. He knew that was coming. And this was going to be a rallying point for Iranians, for them to come together, right? So the US thought this was going to be a walk in the park, and so far it hasn't been a walk in the park. There has been very, very, very severe and massive hits from Iran. Iran is basically taking on everyone in the Middle East at this point in time. And who can blame them? I mean, Iran has to do this because this is for their survival. If they don't do this, the US will keep pushing, Israel will keep pushing the limits. I mean, how dishonest do you have to be to call for negotiations, and in the middle of negotiations you attack the person that you're negotiating with? And this is not the first time that the US and Israel has done this. They did it last year, and I was even surprised that the Iranians came to the negotiating table again. But I think they are doing this just to show the world that they are a reasonable people, that they're a reasonable administration. And I'm kind of surprised that an Islamic theocratic regime is that reasonable. They're not the suicidal maniacs as they are being painted out to be. These guys came to the negotiating table. They even said that, you know what, we're going to give up our nuclear materials. The same materials that Trump claimed last year to have totally destroyed. All of a sudden, they are 2 weeks away from acquiring another nuclear weapon. It doesn't make any sense. So, what Iran is doing right now is for its survival. Now, you can see that last year's war had a huge impact on Israel. And that's why they're doing this. It had a huge impact on Israel because Israel did not anticipate that Iran would be able to inflict that much damage in that 12-day war with its ballistic missiles, which was just ripping through the Iron Dome and all the Israeli and combined Israeli-American defense systems. And it caused a whole lot of damage in Israel. Now, because of that, Israel made the US to expand the US demands for Iran to do away with its ballistic missile program. And does that make any sense? To essentially give away anything that guarantees your security. Just let it go as a sovereign country, as an independent nation. Just let it go so that Israel can come in and do whatever it likes anytime it wants. But Iran said, no, we're not going to do that. And I think that they're doing the right thing. I think it's better for them to take the pain now and then walk through it. No matter how this situation goes, Iran is going to come out stronger for it. But if they had capitulated, if they had given in to the demands of the US and said, you know what, we are not going to continue our ballistic missile program, then that's just 1 inch. You can't negotiate with these people, Israel and the US at this point in time, the Trump administration. You cannot negotiate with them because they are unreasonable. They will keep taking and keep taking and keep taking until there is nothing more. They want to turn Iran into something like Iraq, into Syria, Libya. That's their plan, so that Israel can act unrestrained in the region. And you see what's happening. Everybody is getting hit. Everybody in the Middle East right now, they are getting hit massively by Iran. So to think that one of the most, if not the most sanctioned countries in the world could, hold its own against the US, it's kind of mind blowing. I mean, it was reported that about 3 fighter jets of the US were, downed by friendly fire, whatever that is. They were shot down by Iran or whatever that is. But this just goes to show the incompetence of the Trump administration, who did not think through these things. They didn't think things through. And when they were asked, Lindsey Graham was asked about what are your plans, and he was saying it's not Trump's business to have a plan afterwards. to have a plan of, okay, what happens next? And there were also reports that Trump has been asking for a ceasefire. He's been calling for a ceasefire. And the Iranians were like, no, no ceasefire. We're just going to keep going. And why would they? Why would they? Last year, they agreed to a ceasefire, in my opinion, prematurely, because at that time they were gaining momentum and the genocide in Gaza was still ongoing. So they had enough leverage to actually have pressured Israel into stopping the genocide in Gaza. But they played it safe. They stopped the aggression. They even let Israel have the last strike, and so on and so forth. But as you can see, these people are never going to be satisfied until Iran is completely destroyed. And that is why it is necessary for Iran to do what it is doing now. Now, this is not an endorsement of the Iranian regime. I think the Iranian regime, it's a dictatorship. I think it's repressive to its people. But it is up to the people of Iran to decide what type of leadership they want. If they want to rise up to take over their country, if they want to do away with these leaders who are oppressive to them, it is their right. It's not the right of a foreign country, of a foreign nation, to impose upon them, to help them to depose of their leaders. No. I mean, there are many people in the US today that would like to see the capitulation of the Trump administration. Does that mean that you should welcome, or do you think they would welcome external intervention into the US, military intervention to depose of Trump? No, they wouldn't want that. So why does the US think that it can do that to another nation? It absolutely makes no sense, right? So today I'm going to be reviewing an interview that Lt Col Dan Davis, who is a former US military person, his analysis of this whole situation, and I think it makes a lot of sense. It goes to show a whole this was a massive miscalculation on the part of the Trump administration. And Trump is tackle. Trump is going to get bored soon enough. And when that happens, Israel is going to be left on their own. I mean, that's what he did with the Houthis. At a certain point in time, Trump just cut a deal with the Houthis, and they stopped firing at each other. The Houthis were still free to fire at Israel. If Israel is so strong as they claim to be, they should have gone this alone. They should have gone ahead to attack Iran alone without the help of the US. So imagine that the world's greatest military power being behind Israel, but they're still taking a beating from Iran, the most, if not the most sanctioned country in the world, right? So we're going to look at this. We're going to look at this, this interview, and see what the colonel, the insights that the colonel has shared. So let's get into it.
Welcome back. We are joined by Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, a 4 times combat veteran and host of the very popular Daniel Davis Deep Dive YouTube show. And I will leave a link in the description. So thank you for coming back on. We only spoke a few days ago. You were warning that this war was coming, and well, sadly, you were right as usual. But as this war has now gone on for 2 days, it doesn't seem to go as planned. I mean, all sides have to put on a brave face, I guess, and claim success in any war. But over the past 2 days, we have seen a lot of chaos, and it's very hard to suggest that this was intended. Do you see any strategic miscalculation on the side of the United States, or was this such a cost that they were prepared to absorb?
It is. It's a major miscalculation, but unfortunately, it was one that was self-evident before it ever started. All the signs were in place. You mentioned that I saw this coming and called it. It frankly wasn't that hard to me, because the signs that we were giving.
Hey, my English not so good.
Do you mean my English isn't very good?
Yes,
We made it really clear that absent an 11th hour change of mind by Trump, which was always possible, so I always left some room for that. But based on the movement of the tops of military equipment and gear, and the statements that were made and where the forces were, it looked to me like, because I've been through this, I've lived it twice really, as a member of an armed force, watching this exact same kind of buildup in the United States. And then one of the reasons I was so effective in calling the Russian war when it broke out in 2022. Because remember, most people thought, oh, it's just going to be another buildup. Russians aren't really going to do that. They're going to posture. But I said, no, this one is fundamentally different for the same reason as the other two that I saw. And then now that this was played out, when you see the types of force that Russia had amassed in, it wasn't just demonstration forces. They had everything they need with all the enablers. They had the logistics. They had the medical support. They had lots of things to sustain combat operations, and they were all being parked forward, just like what I went through when I myself was part of that deploying force. And so I said, no, this is something that is being pre-positioned to use. And I wrote that extensively before the case. So, you know, you couldn't come back and just say, well, you called it later. But that's why I was so confident this one, for the same reasons. Just when it was the air logistics, it was the refueling capabilities, it was the C-17s, the C-5 transport, the massive number of them, like 50% of our entire inventory.
So it just goes to show that, you know, this being a military personnel, this person knows what the hell he's talking about. Unlike Trump, who has never had any military service, and I think many people in the circle who's never had any military service, the man knows what he's talking about. And you know, you don't commit that amount of you don't move that amount of military material without wanting to go through with your strike, which is why I think that, you know, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei knew this was going to happen, and he deliberately did not want to leave his residence, which is it's a big win for the Iranians. It's a rallying call for them. The Ayatollah went out like a man. He did not hide. He wasn't killed in a tunnel like Gaddafi. You know, his image is intact, that this person died for the cause. He didn't run. I think there was, I heard that Russia offered to give him safe haven. He didn't run. Just like in his younger days, he was at the forefront. So Trump thinking that taking out, you know, the supreme leader is going to do anything is a big miscalculation, because I think it's going to have the opposite effect.
And then, of course, the large number of fighter jets and the aircraft carrier strike groups and all that. When you look at all that, it's like, no, this is being designed for use. This is not pressure. This is not trying to convince anybody to reach an outcome, because they already were. That was kind of the linchpin to me that kind of convinced me. Iran already was willing to have a negotiation. And in fact, I think history is going to look back and say, if there was a central moment where our failure was crystallized, it's on the night before, when the foreign minister from Oman, I believe it was on a Friday night, came and said on a US CBS News and said he had agreed to the Iranian negotiator to make some profound submissions and changes and concessions that they wanted in the nuclear agreement. They would not do any reprocessing, zero, which they had said wasn't even on the table before. And then they said the stockpiles they had, they would get rid of that too. And then they said at least on the table were the long-range missiles and the proxy forces, which here.
So you can see this just highlights the points that I made earlier about how an Islamic theocratic dictatorship seems much more reasonable than a so-called secular government, a so-called secular Christian Jewish government of Israel and the US. How they were willing to make these concessions in the interests of peace. They didn't have to, because the US has absolutely no right to dictate to a foreign nation how they choose to defend themselves. So for the fact that Iran was even willing to make these concessions shows that they were engaging in good faith. And then the US sees all this and says, oh no, because it wasn't about the nuclear weapons. Trump had claimed that last year that they had destroyed Iran's nuclear capabilities. It was about the ballistic missiles, because they knew what it did to Israel last year. So they wanted Iran to have no ability whatsoever to counter whatever Israel throws at them, that Israel can just operate with impunity the way it operates around the Middle East. That's what this current conflict is about. And then regime change. Why is it in your interest? Why are you helping Iranians? Leave it up to the Iranians. If they're tired of their government, they'll do something about it. They've done it before. So it's all a big miscalculation.
Heretofore had not even been on the table. They said, we'll do that later, but let's get the nuclear part first. It was a golden opportunity for the Trump administration. If that's what they wanted, they had it in their hand. And when he attacked the next morning,
If you've been wanting to feel good about something today, start here. These are real families in Gaza.
Then that made it clear, very clear, that none of this was ever about negotiations. It was always about war. Well, now then we're on the situation to where we have started something that we can't finish. And I don't remember, maybe it's what you and I talked about last time. My big frustration was, this is a war you can't win. You're setting about unattainable military objectives. And when President Trump came out, early in the morning that Saturday at Mar-a-Lago, he put out all the objectives for this, and I just was cringing, because I'm like, unless the Iranian side does what the unexpected and just collapses and crumbles just out of fear and whatever, there's no way you're going to be able to accomplish those. If their backbone stays stiff, and they already understood ahead of time that this was going to be very costly for them, but that they had calculated, this was in the New York Times just days before, that they have calculated that fighting a war with the U.S. was less risky than submitting to the U.S. That, again, was another signal that they had made this decision to go. And
this is a very important point, because this is a defining moment in the conflict. It's a defining moment in the power dynamics and relationship in the Middle East. Because if Iran doesn't take this pain now, it's going to come back to bite them. If they don't take this pain now, the US and Israel, they're going to keep coming back for more. And they're going to take much more bigger, bolder steps every time. So better take the pain now, define the relationship. By the end of the day, the US is going to call for a ceasefire, which they are already in a way calling for. And Iran is saying, nope. So Iran is going to be in a better position to negotiate, even though they are being hit pretty hard right now, which is expected. I mean, this is the US we're talking about. Iran is going to be hit real bad. But I think that they're going to come out of it stronger. I mean, if they've been able to withstand sanctions for decades, and they've been able to build this formidable military capacity despite the sanctions that they are under, it shows that the resilience of these people. It shows that they are resilient. It shows that they are resourceful. And I would say this to the Iranian regime right now, that the only thing that can guarantee their safety, the only thing that can guarantee them from being messed with by Israel and the US is having nuclear weapons. I have absolutely no idea why they haven't acquired one by now. I mean, nobody messes with North Korea. Everybody just leaves it a pariah state, and everybody just leaves it alone. If the fear is that Iran is going to use nuclear weapons against Israel, it's an unfounded, it makes absolutely no sense, because these people are not suicidal. They are not suicidal. There is absolutely no reason that Iran would ever use a nuclear weapon against the US or a US ally as important as Israel, because that would guarantee its non-existence. It's a fact. No matter how many nuclear weapons Iran can build, you cannot build as much as the US currently has. You can't build as much capacity to deliver them as the US currently has. And in my opinion, nuclear weapons are a lame duck weapons, because, I mean, look at Russia right now. How well has these nuclear weapons helped it? Russia is essentially being held to a stalemate by Ukraine, which is almost like a third world country, being held to a stalemate. The nuclear weapons have not been able to shift the ground, and Ukraine had to take the beating. It was unthinkable at a certain point that the Ukrainians will launch a military offensive into Russia. Now it's common. They're doing it on a daily basis. They are launching military offensives into Russia, and Russia can't do anything about it. They haven't deployed their nuclear weapons. They essentially can't.
Now, so far, that's exactly what they have done, and they are paying a price. And there's no doubt that there's been profound destruction of their armed forces, of their senior leaders, of course, their political and military, and definitely their military infrastructure's taken a beating. But I'm pretty sure you and I did talk about this. They have these underground facilities throughout the country, and they have the ability to withstand a lot of this for an extended period of time. But we don't. That's the key issue here. I said that.
But do you understand how crazy it is that even in the first strike, the Iranian leader was taken out of play, and then Iran has been able to escalate, build up their momentum of escalation. What does that show you? These guys are ready for you. That's what it means. But something I don't really get, something I don't really understand is I've seen a lot of analysts saying that the US doesn't have the capacity to go the long haul. And I don't know, maybe it's true, but it just, if the US has the biggest military budget in the world, I mean, bigger than the next 5 biggest military budgets combined together, how come they don't have that capacity? Where is all that money going into? I've heard some people saying that the US will run out of ammunition, or they'll run out of Patriot missiles to shoot down Iranian drones and missiles and all. And I'm like, these guys have the biggest military budget in the world. How is it possible that they would run out of such things? Where's all the money going to? How can Iran not run out of its offensive missiles and the US and Israel will run out of defensive missiles? I'm not a military expert, but it just doesn't compute to me. If that is truly the case, then it speaks to a lot of corruption. It speaks to a lot of waste. It speaks to probably the fact that the military is a huge money laundering apparatus where money is just siphoned off for personal use and so on and so forth.
We had maybe 4 or 5 days of high intensity flight. Maybe we could stretch that out to a couple of weeks if you're judicious in the use. But then what? If the other side doesn't capitulate, you're in real trouble. And now then that's where it looks like we are. There's reports out just in the last few hours that President Trump is saying, hey, maybe we can have a ceasefire. They're asking me for it, which is got to be complete BS. There's no way they would ask for it. Not now, not after their Ayatollah has been assassinated. That's the last thing they're going to do is ceasefire under those conditions. Otherwise, he would have been taken to secure location. Evidence suggests that he knew he was going to be assassinated, and I think willingly sacrificed his life to be used as a martyr because he didn't go to a protected place. He stayed where everybody knew where his compound was, so that when the strike came in, he was killed. That's what it looks like happened intentionally. And
yeah, he went out like a man, unlike the draft dodger, Bone Spurs draft dodger. And this is a man who has come out to say that he very flippantly saying that yes, that's US military people are going to lose their lives. It's a fact of life. These people are crazy. These people are pro-death. Even if that's going to be the case, for the president of a country to come out and tell its military personnel that yes, you're going to die for my stupid war, and after 3 or 4 military personnel were confirmed killed, he made the same. He said it again. And none of his children are in the military. He has sons of military age, fighting age. None of his sons are in the military. If there is any chance that one of Trump's children will be killed in this war, do you think he would be that flippant about the lives of soldiers for his stupid war?
Now that result looks like it's having a situation to where it's not causing the backbone to quiver, but it's actually consolidating support behind the regime and throughout the Shia world. There's lots of protests going on around the world in support of the Iranian side because of the sacrifice of the Ayatollah. So I think it has been a profound, and I mean, to say a miscalculation is bad because that almost implies that you thought maybe it was going to be good, but what you base it off of, you thought it was going to work, but it didn't. This was well known ahead of time that unless the other side just quit and everything in the world said they wouldn't, and you went ahead anyway, that was a profound error. So, yeah, I think it's a major miscalculation.
What I really don't understand is about the Israelis, why they really think that this is a wise thing to do, knowing full well that they would bear the brunt of Iran's aggression, Iran's retaliation. They would bear the brunt, and they've been hit pretty hard. And I think a few minutes ago, before I started the live stream, I saw that even Netanyahu's office has been hit by Iran, and we've not heard from Netanyahu in a very long time. It probably has gone into hiding like a chicken. He's not bold enough to, like the Ayatollah, to stay in his office to say, you know what, let me take what's coming for me. He's gone hiding. It's very possible that it's not even in Israel at the moment. So for Iran to have this capacity to inflict this much damage shows that they were ready. After the 12-day war, any reasonable sane person knows not to mess with Iran. Not, in fact, not this early enough. You know not to mess with Iran, seeing what they did within that 12-day. The destruction they were able to met out, despite the fact that what Israel did in its first strike was masterful, took out a lot of Iranian top military leaders, scientists, political leaders, so on and so forth. But the thing is, people are replaceable. It's not the people themselves, it's the ideology, is the driving force behind it. People are replaceable. So no matter how many of these top leaders you kill, they're just going to find the next guy who will take over. And they have a long line of succession. It's a country of 90 million people. You literally cannot kill everybody even if you try. I mean, they tried with Gaza and still they couldn't kill everyone. So it's futile. And this is what really bothers me, is Israel, instead of reaching out the hand of peace and friendship to its neighbors, to say, let's build equality, let's make peace. No, it has to be war, 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 because they have this overinflated a sense of self-importance. We're God's chosen people. Nothing can happen to us.
Well, they didn't seem to predict that Iran would attack bases across the region. So Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Oman, Kuwait, Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, obviously Israel. But also, as you said, killing Khamenei, this is a very strange thing that they thought the government would collapse. Then, this is in the Shia culture, the martyrdom is so deep. This is, something that would, as you said, get them riled up, but or consolidate. But as you said, but also in the Shia region, Shia communities across the region, you see from Iraq, Pakistan, Bahrain, they're all, taking to the streets in support of Iran, given this attack and killing of their religious leader. And I saw Trump giving a speech now in which he, argued that the Iranian army should put their weapons down, and their civilians should take to the streets. And like, this is, does he really think this is what's going to happen now? It's just,
I really do. I think that he does think that. I think that in his mind, how a lot of people often do projecting. Whatever your values are and whatever you would do in a circumstance, you just project onto another actor. And I think that's what he did, because he's thinking, yeah, if I came in and somebody from the stronger position came in and just started bombing the crap out of me and killing some people, I'd give up. I'd just say, yeah, let's roll in. So that's what's going to happen. And then he's like, that's kind of what happened with all those speed.
And this is very consistent with Trump's kind of personality. He's someone who adores strong men. That's why he adores someone like Vladimir Putin. And this is Putin's playbook. That's why he's acting as though he's Vladimir Putin. He's invading nations. He's threatening to invade allies. He wants to be Putin. And that's why he even praised the Houthis, that they were a tough son of, they were a tough bunch, that they were able to take beating from the US. Because he knows he would capitulate, tackle. He would chicken out. So he expects the Iranians to chicken out. He expects the Iranian government to capitulate and to chicken out. But that's where he got it wrong. Iran is not the US. Iran is not him. So if he was going to capitulate, the Iranians aren't going to do that, because this is literally a fight for their survival as a nation.
Boats. I killed all these people and blew it up. Nobody did anything. I stole the leader from another country in Venezuela. Nothing happened, and they just rolled over the whole leadership in Venezuela. All you got to do is just show how tough you are, and then they'll just roll over. And I think that's what he thought was going to happen here, not recognizing the radical and profound differences between Venezuela and the Shia country of Iran, as you pointed out. So I think it was a big miscalculation. I will say the one area where I did not foresee properly. Iran had said that they would attack the bases of everywhere America was in the region. We took that seriously and bolstered up a lot of the air defenses. But I did not think that they would, from the beginning, also attack the civilian sectors of those countries. It appears to me that their message was, hey, you guys we're suffering from the U.S. We have since 2010 from Israel, and then starting with the assassination of Soleimani by the U.S. in 2019. We just been hit mercilessly, and you guys are protecting them. You guys are.
And the thing is, it's always tragic when civilians are killed in any war. It's always tragic, and I wish it didn't happen, right? But Iranian civilians have been suffering, have been bearing the brunt of this conflict for a very long time. The one that happened last year, about 6,000 Iranian civilians died. So yeah, they're fed up with it. When Israel started this attack again, they killed about 165 school children, girls in school. So forgive my insensitivity or the insensitivity of the Iranians if at this point they don't really care about civilian casualties in the places they are hitting, because they've had it worse. They've had it bad. 165 children who were the future of the country snuffed out like that, gone, killed, decimated. So they're probably in the headspace of, we don't really give a shit about the level of damage we're going to cause right now. We just want to pass across our message. Because last time they were very diplomatic with their strikes. They were striking military installations, very precise strikes. Now they are much more indiscriminate. We're hitting anything that falls within our purview. As long as they belong to the enemy, we're hitting it. And who can blame them? Because Israel hasn't been discriminate either. They've killed civilians. They've brought down apartment buildings. They've attacked civilian infrastructure. So it's a tit for tat. Two can play this stupid game.
They're putting these bases in there, and they're using that against us. So it's time for you to feel some pain too. It looks like that's kind of what they said, kind of like a big FU in a big way. And there's been some really big strikes. I thought that they would not do that in an effort to say, hey, don't take action against us. This is just against the U.S. But it looks like they're saying, I'm just tired of getting pushed around, which is another indication. The reason I bring that up is because that shows that they're all in on this. And they're going to say, listen, we're even going to hit other regimes in the area to see if we can put pain on the United States, on Israel, and on their backers in the region. And they're going to start suffering until everybody backs off. And then maybe we will too. Maybe they'll do some negotiation later. I don't think they're going to do it right now, though.
No, that's what I'm thinking as well. I probably, yeah, they would want an end to this, but I think they want to inflict some more pain. Otherwise, you are going to have a similar war again in 6 months as well during negotiations, probably. But what do you see, though, the wider war strategy of Iran here? Because I was also a bit surprised by the civilian targets, that is airports, hotels. The foreign minister said we attacked hotels because they house American troops, but still, I've seen a lot of other civilian targets which didn't, it fits more within your analysis here, that it's more about causing pain. But they jumped straight into the closing off the Strait of Hormuz. They attack ships, I think four oil tankers so far, if I'm counting correctly. So what is the strategy now of Iran? I mean, if you would sit down with the war planners, what do you think they would say?
I think that they have calculated we're going to run this out for a number of months. That's my guess based on what they're doing. These things aren't short-lived. These things aren't like, well, we're trying to do this and we'll ratchet up bit by bit to increase the pain. But if you back off at any time, so can we. This sounds like they have said, no, we're all in. And so we're going to shut down all the stuff. We've been signaling we were going to do the stuff. You didn't believe us. And I'm sick of it. After 47 years of taking this kind of punishment from their perspective, I'm done. And so now
I really admire the restraint that the Iranians have had throughout the course of the conflict up until this point. They've been very, very measured. They've been very, very restrained. When Israel first started killing, when Israel bombed its embassy in Damascus, killing 2 Iranian generals, Iran just did a symbolic strike with slow-moving drones, which most of them were shot down by Israel. Didn't really do any damage. Then the second time around, Iran still did something much more symbolic. But this time they were like, you know what? We're tired of being pushed around. We have to respond for real this time. And that's what happened.
new rules are in effect, and you're going to go by what we say. You're going to finally taste some of the pain that we've been taking, because I think that they view this as a genuine existential crisis. And I think that they said, we're going to have to, it looks to me like in their councils, they must have calculated that we're going to suffer real bad for this. There's no doubt about it. But we're going to have a shot at having a positive outcome at the end, which is to drain the United States dry. The whole issue with the Russia-Ukraine war is that it's a war of attrition, and both sides have a lot of inputs. And so it's taken years, and they're still not there.
Baby, give me 7 weeks, and I promise you that your voice will shock you. The Vocal Star Academy is
bad as Ukraine's been hit. They can still keep going. The United States, on the other hand, is not analogous to the Russian side in that one. We don't have that much capacity to just go for years like this. As a matter of fact, you heard General Jack Keane on the morning of the attack say, boasting that we could do this for 2 or 3 weeks. And he said, but maybe it'll be done faster because they assassinated the Ayatollah. And they said, well, now then maybe it won't even take that long. Well, if that's your plan.
This just speaks to the incredible naivete and the hubris of the American regime and the US, the Israeli regime. It just speaks to their hubris. For them not to see this, for them not to have envisaged all this, it just shows that they feel so comfortable in their strength and in their position. They think they can control reality. They literally think they can shape reality with their actions, with their thoughts, with their weapons. But reality is its own thing. It can go its own way, and it's going its own way at this point in time. And that's why we're at this point where Israel is taking a beating, and rightly so. I think they need to learn a very, very important lesson, because it seems as if violence is the only thing that the Israelis understand. That's the only language they understand. If you try to play nice with them, they're going to smack you in the face. They've been smacking Iran, they've been smacking Syria, they've been smacking Lebanon, they've been smacking Gaza, the West Bank. They've been doing all of these things. Iran is the only one that's able to stand up to them, and that is why they feel so threatened. They want to take it out. And that's the more reason why Iran has to inflict as much pain as possible, so that next time the Israelis will think really, really hard before starting up a conflict. And these guys are so delusional, because right now they're claiming that Iran started this war. Really? They're also claiming that Iran is attacking civilians. Really? After killing 165 children in Iran? I mean, the videos I saw coming out of Iran in the first day was just of civilians, of women mourning their dead, people on the streets mourning their dead. This wasn't about military installations or what have you. So you have no moral ground to be outraged that your civilians are being targeted as well. You've lost the moral plot. As terrible, as tragic as it is that civilians are being killed, which should not happen. I mean, I feel the pain for every civilian that is killed in any conflict on either side. But Israel did start this, and this is the consequence of their actions. Every action has its own reaction. Every action has its own reaction. So they shouldn't be surprised that Iran is taking these measures. They shouldn't be surprised at all. So look, Bavine, you said you knew that this was going to be the strategy. You wrote about it. Please share the link with me. Let me see what you wrote about this. Right? So it looks like they started bases to divert the US from those targets. Hexet is such a dope. Of course, Hexet is a dope. It looks like someone who's currently he looks like someone who's constantly high. I mean, how do respectable US generals, people in the security apparatus, how do they put up with that crap from the morons that Trump has brought into the administration? From Kash Patel to Hexet and the other idiots that don't know what they're doing. How do they put up with it? I mean, if I was in that position, I'd simply resign. You can't be taking orders from people who are so incompetent, they don't know what the hell they're doing. So it seems as though the Iranian strategy is working. In fact, for me, I was like, you know what? After hitting US bases in and around the region, maybe lay down a while and then focus on Israel. Let Israel bear the brunt of it. But these guys are unrelated. They're hitting everywhere. They're hitting everybody constantly. They're hitting Bahrain. They're hitting the UAE. They're hitting Saudi Arabia. They're hitting everybody, Israel, at the same time, devastating. And it seems as if the 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 missile defense system of Israel is being overwhelmed at this point in time, because more of these missiles are getting through, and it's just causing massive damage. The funny thing about this is whenever this operation starts by Israel, you see them, or you see all these neckbeards on Twitter proclaiming victory, that this is the greatest military strategy ever known to man. They were happy. Oh, we have done it. We have done it. And now, where are those people? Now that Israel is taking a beating, where are they? Then they're nowhere to be found. Or they're probably downplaying the whole thing. They are reducing the impact. They're not I mean, Western media isn't even really showing what the level of damage that is going on. If not for social media, people would think that Iran is just being decimated and that they have no ability to fight back, and they've not been hit back. But this is the reality. I have no love for the Iranian regime. I think it's a dictatorship. I think it's repressive of its people. I'd rather it be a democratic system there where people have rights, freedom, and so on and so forth. However, on principle, Israel and the US are the aggressors. Now, I cannot, I can't do away with my principle just because I don't like a regime. If they are being unfairly targeted, then the principle should apply to them as well. But the West has totally lost any claim to morality, any claim to human rights, any claim to justice, to international law. The West has totally lost any claim to that, because Trump has been acting unhinged. Israel has been acting unhinged, and nobody in the West has been able to call them to order. Even after this strike started, you can see how the Western leaders, how they have responded. The framing as though it was Iran that started this conflict. The framing, and then they are falling in line behind the US, either by being silent or by being vocal about their support. Keir Starmer coming out, to support what Trump is doing in violation of international law. International law, the system that was set up by the West itself, which in my opinion seems to just serve the interests of the West. And when it's no longer useful in serving the interests of the West, they're doing away with it now. When the international courts of justice, when the UN, when they were prosecuting corrupt African leaders, it was fine. The system was working perfectly. But now that they put out a warrant of arrest for Netanyahu, now suddenly it's a system that you cannot trust anymore. The hypocrisy of Western governments stinks to high heaven. They have shown themselves that they are not trustworthy. They have shown themselves to be hypocritical, that they don't stand for any value or any principle, that they are self-serving, that they are not to be trusted. How do you do business with such kind of leaders that they have their word is not their bond? You really, really, really can't. So anyway, it's unfortunate that lives are being lost right now, but this is the US's and Israel's doing. I hope that they learn. I hope that orange clown gets bored, as he usually does, gets bored soon and then tackles out. And if Israel wants to continue their offensive against Iran, they're going to get a thorough beating. And I'm not going to be displeased if that happens, because Israel needs to be put in its place. It needs to be put in check. It needs to know that it cannot act unrestrained, unhinged, attacking. It needs to know that you know, there are bounds to your actions. There are bounds, and hopefully someday there will be peace in that region. Everybody will be able to thrive and live peacefully, happily. There's actually no reason why they should be fighting one another, if not for anything, for the fact that we're all human beings. Can't we just simply coexist as human beings? By the end of the day, we all looking for the same thing, the most basic things that humans look for. Everybody share it in common. We all want shelter, we all want safety, we all want food, we all want love, we all want to be happy. So what's all this carnage about? What's all this conflict about? Why can't people just, live, and let's live? Anyway, if you're just coming, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Please click the notification bell so that you can know when we go on live. I know that many of my audience don't even know when I go on live. I don't know, maybe YouTube has a war against my channel, but I keep doing what I'm doing. Not for anything. Channel is not monetized. I'm just doing it based on the fact that I like sharing my thoughts on these things that are happening in the international scene. So that will be all for today. That's the much I can take for today. Like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in another live stream. It's bye for now.